Before we begin, thank you very much to Nightshade Malto for joining my Patreon campaign. No, I am not kidding. Someone named themselves that on Patreon to get me to shout it out, and I'm happy to shout it out. And I figured, hey, as long as that was the one in queue, we might as well make that the shout out for the last of my Earthspark episode reviews until the next batch of episodes launches. So today we are going to be looking at Home, Part 1 and Part 2, the Season 1B finale. And there is a ton going on here, but it's all one overarching story, so I just took some screen caps and we're going to talk about it in order as things happened in the show. And it starts with the bot brawl, as we would find out that it is called. So it starts off on some pretty strange imagery where it's Bumblebee who's supposed to be, in secret and like hiding, even though Ghost just discovered that he's still alive and on Earth. It's still weird that he has now found himself here, in a public fighting arena where there are humans watching on as Transformers fight it out for their amusement. It's a really cruel setup and does remind you that even though Transformers in general in this show are more accepted and they are allies to humans, there's always going to be those people out there that just hate them for being different. And that's kind of a theme for the episode. Which, by the way, this is Brawl. We are watching. This is the Earthspark version of Brawl that we are seeing here. So yeah, it goes well. Bumblebee does win the fight, which impressive him. It's a very large opponent, but it's very clear that something is wrong with Bumblebee as he is extremely exhausted and energon spent. Oh, and the next round begins just as we cut to black in the credits in the opening, so we can go straight to the TERRANS. So the parents are out of this one. It's Mo and Robbie sneaking the TERRANS off to Philadelphia. So once again, we're kind of breaking that whole we're supposed to be keeping everyone a secret thing. It's important for them to get out and see the world and learn and all that. And yeah, they're just going to pass as Autobots, so I guess for the most part, most people are okay with them. They're standing, it's still like, compared to what we get in a lot of Transformers media, where like in the movies where every human, except for the direct main stars of the movie, fear Transformers and run screaming and all that, to just see people just like casually just there, just like doing their thing with giant robots standing around, it's kind of a refreshing change. I like this approach more than just like the constant hostility. That's for later though. There. Suffice to say, they really shouldn't be in this situation, but the Maltos, they're very excited because this is Mo and Robbie's hometown. This is where they originally came from, so they get to show them the sights, experience a little bit of city life. It's supposed to only be there for 2 hours. I'm gonna guess they're gonna be there longer than 2 hours, don't you think? So, yes, this descends into chaos. Everyone immediately splits off into doing their own thing, with Nightshade in particular taking notice of a human that was pretty rude to the Transformers, so now interested in what exactly they're going to do. I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Nightshade. It's a cool shot. It's a really cool shot. It's scary, but cool. This is once again Nightshade going into their defender and protector thing that the books inspired in them. So it's kind of fun to see. It's kind of fun to see them play on that, and they're gonna go into a little bit of God, why am I blanking on terms lately? Vigilantism. They're going to save someone from a mugger, is what they're going to do. The mugger who was also the one that was rude to them earlier. So there's a little mini story for Nightshade in these episodes, and we'll get to that here in a minute. For now, we're going to talk about what ends up being the main bulk of the episode, which is the woman you see here on the right, who has asked if they want to, if the TERRANS and the Maltos, if they want to see a wrestling match. Now, if you paid attention, yeah, Mo is a big wrestling fan. She has made a lot of wrestling references throughout this show. So of course, everyone is down for this. Now, of course, with what we saw, what we opened the episode with, you're gonna decide, like, you're gonna figure out pretty quick that this is not going to be a wrestling match. This is definitely going to be something a little bit crueler. Yeah. So they get trapped in an elevator and drop down into the bot brawl, and they're going to be forcibly entered to battle. So that'll be fun. And at some point in this, Jawbreaker utters a line that me and my friends who watch wrestling are just like continue parroting, which is like, "How could wrestling betray me like this?" Oh, we feel that. We feel that a lot. In the other side of the plot, we have Robbie with Twitch and Hashtag meeting up with one of his old friends in the old skate park he used to run around in. And it should be a fun time because the TERRANS get to play around in the skate park. The friend is making some rather rude suggestions towards the robots here, which is where we start getting into the we're getting into what is essentially the prejudice storyline of the two episodes, because they spot this graffiti, which immediately puts everybody off, and the claims of, "Oh no, we just meant Decepticons." No, you didn't. No, you didn't. It's prejudice. It's the same old thing we're always fighting. So yeah, this immediately puts everybody off, and it really does kind of paint the picture that even though the Autobots saved Earth from the Decepticons, there's still going to be those who view all the robots, good guy or bad guy, with hatred, because they are not from the planet. They brought a war here. And the sad thing is that, like, because they brought a war to the planet, there is some justification to it, but it is a really negative light, and it is really it is really apparent that a lot of it comes from just like a base judgment, a prejudice of all Transformers. We've seen that in other Transformers media. This is the first time it's been a factor here. And honestly, outside of Ghost and some of the other villains that are not robots, I don't think this is going to be something that goes on for too long as far as like a theme of this show. I think it's really just a strong reminder that not everyone on Earth views Transformers as a good thing, Autobot or otherwise. So yeah, there's some uncomfortable truths in this episode. Uncomfortable truths, and we have to get into one now, don't we? So we've already done an entire video for Nightshade, and we've gone through this whole thing already. I will, in all fairness, I will say that Nightshade might be a little heavy-handed in this episode. They are very eager to announce pronouns when they introduce themselves, which is not always necessary, but sometimes it is. But I do feel like they brought it up a little bit too much. I think if meeting their new friend Sam, if that was when they used the non-binary introduction, I think that would have been fine. I think that's all you really needed. So I can see it maybe being a little heavy. But I do like the moment here, because at no point has anyone taught Nightshade the term non-binary. So they knew that he and she did not suit them, and they were not comfortable with either of those terms. But they didn't have like an actual phrase or word for it. So in this like self-discovery arc, things you're going to encounter in the big city, then yeah, that actually does kind of make sense, right? For them to come across somebody who can teach them that. So we did a whole video for Nightshade, and in their defense, because there is nothing wrong with the character. And I had people tell me, like, you didn't have to make that video. And I would respond to them saying, yes, I did. Because I have friends who are in the LGBT. I have trans friends. I have non-binary friends. And the first literal, and they're some of the nicest people and like some of the best friends I've had. My first non-binary friend is literally the most harmless person I have ever met in my life. So to know that my friends are going through what they are going through right now, where there is so much prejudice and outright hatred born from a refusal to understanding and just propaganda that's existed since the 40s and never been proven to be true. The fact that they face that every day, not knowing who they can trust and who secretly just wants to get rid of them, or and they are still presenting who they are. In public, they are presenting their gender. In their social medias, it's all over their banners, and it's on their Twitter profiles. And that takes a lot of courage to be in an environment and a time in our culture where there's so much of this vitriol that comes from this place of just outright hatred with no basis. And they still face the day as themselves, and they still continue to live as who they are. That takes courage. That's bravery. I don't get to talk about these things often because my platform is, mostly Transformers and kids things. So when Nightshade presents me the opportunity to speak my mind, then I feel like I have a way to actually present it. I feel like I actually have the ability to speak up and add to this. And if I were to just tweet about it, or if I were to just say nothing when I have this platform and I have the ability to say more and defend everyone, my friends as well as the people like them, if I don't do that, then I'm doing their courage a disservice. I am doing wrong by their courage. So what I show in courage is just, I don't care what trolls flame me as. I don't care what accusations get thrown at me, because they come from people who literally don't want to learn anything for themselves. And I choose to take that, and I accept that, because the courage to do that pales in comparison to the courage they show just being them. And I do not fear the backlash of that, because I don't fear that backlash. What I fear is who I would be if I let that backlash change who I am. So that's why I had to do it. Because if I did anything less, I would show just as much cowardice as the people who hate my LGBT friends. There you go. Let's talk more about this episode. Let's talk about one of the best parts of this episode. So Laserbeak and Frenzy. Frenzy's already fun in this series, not only because they're so much more talkative and characterful, but also now we have Laserbeak talking, and they have they build these two in this episode as the commentators for the bot brawl. So Laserbeak has to be, for lack of better terms, the Jim Ross, like the Southern wrestler guy, and it's doing the commentary, and it's hilarious. It's absolutely brilliant, and I love seeing these two used this way. We do see a match, because this is where the Maltos do find Bumblebee. And of course, they immediately put on a real pro wrestling match, where the moves are faked. So yeah, they actually did get to do some wrestling after all. And then a new opponent made a run in. New opponent being Grimlock. That's a bit intense. All right, so Grimlock, he is just a feral beast in this episode. And we find out later why. But for now, it is really confusing why. Because it's very much Thor Ragnarok energy. It's my friend from work. And then I get the scrap beaten out of me. So, through the fight with Grimlock, who literally is just like he was in the previews, and we got so excited, especially with the announcement that it's, the who's doing the voice acting. It's Keith David. Keith David's the voice of Grimlock, and we were so excited to hear it. We don't hear Keith David at all in this episode. He's never in robot mode. But they do find out that Grimlock had a controller on him that was basically forcing him to do battle. So we got through. So that was the big thing. And And now we have to wonder where those came from. Yeah, I took more screen caps than I really needed. These two are still great, just to confirm. No surprise. No surprise where the control chips came from. Mandroid's still around, and yeah, apparently he's the one handling the bot brawl. We're going to find out that, yeah, he spread those things around quite a bit. There's some other things going on with him, too. Remember, this is the action side of the plot. We also have the humans element of the plot, which is basically just reconnecting family and realizing that things have changed since you left town. It's never easy to go back to where you were before with fresh eyes that come from living in somewhere else or being someone else. It's weird to go back. Like when you say you can never go home, that means that, by the time you go home, home's changed and you have changed. Your outlook has changed. So to go back home, Robbie has spent this remember, Robbie's original story arc was he just wants to go back to Philadelphia. Well, here we are. We're 17 episodes later, he's back, and it's really not what he remembers it being. And there's a lot here that just does not make him comfortable calling it home anymore. So he's got a lot to go through, which makes some of the other Maltos go through some things, because, of course, that's how they're all linked. Bumblebee, as it turns out, he's part of the bot brawl as a way of finding what happened to Grimlock, because Grimlock went off the grid. And as part of the investigation, they find what happened to Brawl after the battle. His arm has been severed, and he is completely drained of energon in an extremely creepy scene. Speaking of creepy, a lot else is going to go on. So, number one, they did find one of the other control chips. It very much just looks like one of Mandroid's bots, so that kind of takes all the mystery out, even if they were trying to hold the mystery. But yeah, Mandroid himself has grafted Brawl's arm onto him. We were kind of ignoring that, on him it seems way smaller than it was when it was on Brawl. Because Brawl is way bigger than Bumblebee, so that shouldn't work. He's looking way more haggard here, too, and I don't think it's just the part where he survived the explosion of, Mandroid's moving castle, but he's definitely, we're starting to see that what he's done to himself is definitely taking a toll on him. He's literally, grafting Cybertronian parts onto his body, trying to be what he hates most because he believes that's how he has to fight it. So, he's a creepy character, and getting creepier by the minute. Dude, sleep. You need a good 10 hour, not even an 8 hour sleep. You need to get some sleep in. You obviously are working yourself way too hard. So Mandroid is back. He continues to be a creepy threat, even though he's clearly suffering and clearly losing his mind in this episode, more so than before. Voice actor is still super on point. Still can't believe that it's freaking it's a freaking guy from the Drew Carey show, and he's putting on a great villain role here. The Mandroid's bots continue to be a really interesting source of threats. The way that they've been able to work them into just being these incredibly sometimes minor threats for the humans, but they can also adapt them into things like this, so that they are major threats for the TERRANS. It's a really I was kind of wondering why these tiny little bots, but they've done really good work with them. They've actually done some pretty inspired things with them. Through the course of this fight, this is mostly just distraction. The course of this battle, Mandroid manages to get a control chip onto Hashtag, which, remember, Hashtag's abilities gives him a little bit more access than he probably needs to have. And it lets him feel, it really lets him mess with Hashtag's mind in a way that really doesn't work for the show in a weird way, because he's trying to drive her away from her family, and the control chip's doing a lot for this, but there is a fight in the mindscape over this between Mandroid and a completely rational Hashtag. But it's a lot of mind game stuff. I don't think it's quite appropriate. I don't think it makes quite a bit of sense when there's so much family unity in this story. So, I mean, maybe that's a little bit far to think that Mandroid could just convince her that she's just alone and rejected. And that kind of drives some of the sentiment that we've seen throughout this episode between Nightshade and Sam agreeing that, like, they find comfort in other non-binary people because they don't know who they can really trust with who they really are, to what went on with Robbie and finding out his old friend harbors some unfortunate opinions about Transformers, including Autobots. So being alone really does, like, loneliness and being an outcast and being essentially just being rejected by society in general has a big plot in this story. But heroes overcome things like that. So we move on, and we start seeing that the TERRANS are way more than we thought they were. So for the first time, the big season ender, like, oh my god moment, the first one, is finding out the Maltos have a joined power between them. It's almost like a protective, yes, because it's a force shield ability, but it seems even stronger than that. Twitch can just do, like, really powerful things by directing this force field and the direction that things can fly off of it. With literally a wave of her arm. Like, she comes across, like, really powerful in this scene. The others have the eye glow thing, and all of them are now connected. So, like, the way Robbie and Mo can sense their Terran siblings, now all the siblings can sense each other when they are bonded like this. So there's something even stronger about Terran bots that we are just now discovering through this. And it is how they get hashtag back once she also joins in with this shared energy. It's a really good bonding moment. And yeah, it sets up another big mystery. How powered up they are, how they survive on such little energon. Like the Malto bots, the TERRANS, they have a lot of intrigue behind them at this point. A lot. The episode does end off on some really positive notes that I do like. Things like, not Bumblebee being unconscious, sorry. Skipped ahead a little bit. So Bumblebee, they almost fake Bumblebee's death here. He's really just exhausted. So I think they get Bumblebee back. So there's that. That finishes that storyline, and we're still kind of like Grimlock and like what's going to happen there. That'll be pretty soon in season 1C, I believe. So mysteries left to go. But, like I said, it ends off on a bit of a positive note. Robbie's friend does have a change of heart after meeting Transformers himself, which sometimes, when you have a prejudice against someone, all you really have to do is meet people like that and confirm whether or not your beliefs are true or not. I guess, and oftentimes you're going to find you didn't have it right. So Robbie's friend learns that, Transformers are not all enemies. So there's some growth. There is some growth here, and there is a positivity because ultimately things do change for the better. But then we have this. Here's the big revelation of the entire episode. So Agent Croft has rounded up the recently the once again defeated Mandroid. And they've mentioned working together in the past, which leads me to believe that Ghost has been funding everything that Mandroid's been doing in the first place. Now she has control of the control chips, and now she has Mandroid under her thumb because what's wrong with him is a lack of energon. He has absorbed so many Transformer parts, he himself needs energon to survive. So now he is reliant on her. And now, if there's any ambiguity to what Ghost is up to, now it's gone. Now it's completely gone. She opens up the Decepticon vault for him to experiment on, by the way. So we're going to throw that little bit of extra cruelty in for, just for the sake of it. And that's where we leave off season 1B with, the Maltos gaining an ability that hints that they are far more powerful than they have ever let on to this point. And the two big villains of it, the almost villain and the true, like Mandroid being like a very upfront villain, and then the secretive villain, to find out, oh, they're going to be in league together from now on. And yeah, Ghost is definitely up to something a lot more nefarious than we assumed. This is a big place to leave off and make us wait for the rest of the season. Oh my god, I have to wait for the rest of it now. There's still 8 episodes to go this season. But hey, if they're going to leave off anywhere, that's a good place to leave it. And that's where we have to leave it. So that's it. I'm wrapping up my Earthspark episode reviews until the next one. For a finale, yes, there's a little bit of plot convenience. It's a little bit convenient that the Maltos just happen to go to Philadelphia and discover where Mandroid was. Things like that just feel like maybe a little bit convenient. But other than that, I do think overall it's a really strong pair of episodes. And I do like that the parents were left out. It let the kids kind of explore on their own and kind of let the Terrans thrive a little bit outside of the barn. Because we can't just keep having episodes that take place on the farm. They have to get out. They have to explore, even if it's a risk for, even if their discovery is risked. I mean, it's, they need to grow. We need to see exactly who they are. And that's kind of what we're getting, So, thank you guys for watching. Keep watching. Please, if you have not given this show a chance, please give the show a chance. This is some of the best Transformer cartoon I've seen in a good while. I'm really looking forward to the next batch of episodes, whenever those happen to come out. But, thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.
Yeah, I guess I'll give Bardic to Pain. Pain, my #1 good best friend. You got this.
You're just basically like Caboose at this point.
Just like...
Oh, God.
That's all right, let's keep this Pain train going. The Caboose is here.
Son of a bitch.
No.
And yeah,
This
you get
makes me
Bardic.
Tucker. I'm quitting.
Jaws, take 2 psychic damage.